Welcome back to the channel for another video. Today we're back here in the seat, back talking about Wrexham Football Club. Today I'm going to be bringing you a video that might be slightly outdated for the viewers at home watching this. Of course, you'll be fully aware of what happened in the final few days of the transfer window for Wrexham Football Club. But today I've been busy with university, I've been busy with other stuff going on, so I'm a week late to the transfer news. But today I promised I'd do a whole roundup of the transfer window, and today Wrexham made 3 signings in the last 48 hours of deadline day in the January transfer window, and a whole host of players departed the club. So today there's plenty to be talking about. We're going to be looking at the signings, the departures, what this means for players currently in the squad, and the players out on loan regarding their futures to the football club. But before we get going in today's video, if you're looking for the best Wrexham AFC content, make sure to get down there and click the red subscribe button. We're on the road to 29,000 subscribers. Let's go for 500 likes on today's video, and of course if you'd like to support the channel further, it'll be the first link in the description down below. But I think it's only right that we do start with the signings. Of course, I'm recording this a couple of hours after our 2-0 home defeat to Millwall, so yeah, a disappointing result, but I'm doing this to hopefully put a smile on my face because we're going to start off with our new defender, Zak Vyner. So our first signing of the January transfer window was confirmed, as Zak Vyner signed for Wrexham Football Club from fellow promotion chasing side Bristol City for an undisclosed fee, which is reported to be in the region of £1.5 million, which, I've just said it, for a player that was playing consistently in that back line for Bristol City's defence as they push for the playoffs. They make a late surge in the second half of the season for Championship playoffs like they did last year in the league. I think it's an absolute bargain taking a player that's a homegrown player at the Robins and bringing him into Wrexham, who are also, currently in the playoffs despite our defeat to Millwall today. We're a team that's chasing promotion alongside Bristol City. Yes, you could say, just firstly on this transfer, he was out of contract in the summer, but considering we were after Zak Vyner in the summer, I think, it's a smart bit of business from Phil Parkinson. I think the asking price in the summer was between £3 and £4 million, so Parky sort of has a tendency to wait for players until, the January transfer window when they're out of contract until the end of the summer and get them for a heavily reduced price. So I think this is an absolute bargain, and if we are looking at the profile of player that Zak Vyner is, he is the definition of a one-club man. He spent 20 years at Bristol City, having been there since he was 8 years old. In that meantime, he obviously, as he got older, he needed that men's experience playing first team football, and he went to the likes of Plymouth Argyle, Rotherham United, he went up to Scotland for Aberdeen, etc. to, like I said, just gain experience in the men's game, because it's always going to be a massive step up from him going through the academy. You're going to need that, regular football at some stage, and he's got it at some really competitive teams in some really competitive leagues, the likes of Plymouth, Rotherham, who are playing at a good standard in League One and the Championship. So, he got that early experience, which I think definitely he will say propelled him to, go on and do bigger and better things, which he has exactly done. And after breaking through at Bristol City into the first team, he went on to make over 260 appearances, including 48 out of 48 league matches last year in the Championship in Bristol City's playoff campaign. So signing a player of that experience for such a low fee is a really solid bit of business. We were yet to see him make an appearance, obviously, today against Millwall, but I think once he returns from that toe injury, he's going to give really strong competition to Max Cleworth. We're bringing a player that's got so much experience, quality on the ball at this level, and we'll get talking about that, the attributes that he is going to bring to our backline. But as a whole, on the package for £1.5 million, it's a steal bit of business. And like I said, we're going to look at him as a defender, and as a defender, a lot of Bristol City fans have said he's more of a ball-playing defender opposed to a centre-back like Dom Ham, who, if the ball comes in the air, he'll header it. No nonsense, hoof upfield. Vyner is the player that likes to get the ball at his feet, make that progressive pass into the midfield or to the wing-backs, and like I said, he'll more likely than most complement Callum Doyle, Max Cleworth, the players that do the progressive passes into the midfield, like to bring the ball forward. And if we are looking at Vyner last season in their successful campaign in the Championship, 114 progressive passes over the course of last season, and so far this season he's registered 33 tackles, 112 ball recoveries and 966 successful passes. So he's a player that likes to get on the ball, likes to sort of just make something happen, whether that be, like I said, that pass into the midfield where, in this team it will be Ben Sheaf, George Dobson, Matty James will go forward with the ball, spray it out to the wing backs, or, give it to our attacking players. So if we can get that attributes back into the back line, which we do already have stacked up in Cleworth and Doyle, then I think it's only going to be a bonus. And overall, £1.5 million, 28 years old, we have no complaints on this signing at all. In a sense, with Wrexham spending over the course of the transfer window in obviously the January transfer window and the summer transfer window, for a price we paid for him, I think it's a bit of a free hit, because it's not the end of the world if it pays off, but he's coming into Wrexham with championship experience and expectation to come in and take Cleworth's spot, or whether that's Cleworth's, Hyams or Doyle's, we really don't know. But Vyner will not go from another promotion chasing side in the Championship to another promotion chasing side in the Championship just to sit on the bench. It's not going to work like that. He's going to provide competition and depth going into the final stretch of the season, so it's one that I'm really happy with. And next, a full circle moment as Davis Keillor-Dunn has returned to Wrexham 6 years on after first signing for the football club. At the worst point in probably recent history at Wrexham Football Club. He's joined from League One side Barnsley for £2.5 million, and it's half of what they were asking in the summer. They were asking around £5 million. Wrexham have shown interest in Davis Keillor-Dunn, I think, for the past 2 or 3 transfer windows. So we are going to be talking about a name Wrexham fans will know. It goes by the name of Davis Keillor-Dunn, a former player of ours. To finally get him across the line, to get him back home to Wrexham Football Club, is a really good bit of business. And like other players in that we've signed in the January transfer window, it's all about depth and competition going into the final stretch and the final leg of this Championship campaign, because it's more than possible that Wrexham will be in the playoffs come the end of the season. So bringing these players in that have had really good first half of the seasons, especially Keillor-Dunn, is only going to better us off as we go into, like I said, the final 16-15 games of the season. So speaking on Davis Keillor-Dunn, the newer fans of Wrexham Football Club since the takeover won't realise that Davis Keillor-Dunn did actually sign for us. I think it was in late January, early February time, and obviously the COVID pandemic hit in mid-March, so we only saw Keillor-Dunn play about 6 or 7 games in this Wrexham squad, and at the time Wrexham were at the bottom end of the National League. We were really struggling, but it was Keillor-Dunn and Dan Jarvis, the players that came into Wrexham, which really gave us that boost. We got that big away win at Bromley, we got obviously that draw at home to Eastleigh, which ultimately at the end of the day helped Wrexham Football Club survive. And if we wouldn't have had those couple of goals, those Keillor-Dunn goals away at Bromley, we might not have had the takeover. In a parallel universe, we might not have had the takeover. It's a full circle moment. He left us at our lowest point in the National League, and now he's joined us to boost our chances of promotion to the Premier League. Saying those words in the space of 6 years, again, it's just mesmerising. We are fully aware of the player that Davis Keillor-Dunn is, and since leaving Wrexham, he's gone on to do bigger and better things and achieve really good things in the higher leagues of the EFL, especially for Mansfield, for Oldham, for Barnsley in recent times. If you're looking at Davis Keillor-Dunn since obviously playing for Mansfield, playing for Barnsley across League 2 and League 1, 86 goals and assists Davis Keillor-Dunn has registered in the past 3.5 seasons. So it was about time at 28 years old he deserved his shot at Championship football, and like he said in his interview, if there's one club you want to go to, it's going to be Wrexham. He's returning back to the place that gave him that full chance after falling out of love with football, I think he said when he first signed for Wrexham. So we gave him his chance to obviously get loving football again and get him back playing regular game time, to now coming back to us to help us get to the Premier League. So it's going to be a really good sign, and I think it's one that's going to go down with the fans. Obviously, he came on against Millwall, didn't make much of an impact. I wasn't expecting, any players to come into that game and make an impact, because overall it was just a poor performance from Wrexham. But as a player, as time goes on and as we see Davis Keillor-Dunn progressively get those starts in the Wrexham team, get more minutes, he is going to be a player that's going to get us off our seats, which is what we've seen for Mansfield, for Barnsley. Keillor-Dunn is going to be a player that's going to create. He can score, he can carry the ball really well going forward. His movement on and off the ball shows why he was one of, if not the best attacking players in League One. For goal contributions, for goals, for assists, for chances created, Davis Keillor-Dunn was by far, I think, in the top 2 in League One over the course of the past 1.5 seasons. So for £2.5 million, it's a bargain. Again, it's only a player that's going to add competition, add that sort of competition to Josh Windass, to Nathan Broadhead, to show that these players are coming in to take your spot, and Davis Keillor-Dunn is not a player that's going to come in and happily sit on the bench. He's going to want to be in that starting 11 and get that shot of playing Premier League football. He's got a lot of love for the club, and the fans have a lot of love for him. As Keillor-Dunn said in his interview, we've got unfinished business, and let's hope that business can finish in Wrexham in the Premier League at the end of the season. And our final signing on deadline day, in the last couple of hours, Wrexham confirmed the signing of Sheffield Wednesday striker Bailey Cadamarteri Phil Parkinson has followed up his summer interest in the young striker after obviously the interest we saw in the summer. I talked about him on 2 separate occasions in the summer in this exact seat. Nothing materialised to that, and then, sort of out of nowhere in the past 24 hours of the transfer window, Wrexham secured his services for a fee of around £1 million. This obviously comes 2 days after, we were at Hillsborough. I was watching Cadamarteri in that 1-0 away win. He was playing up top. He made that obviously good run in the left-hand side, I think it was, got that shot on goal, and we saw bright sparks from him in that game. And you've got to remember, Cadamarteri is playing in a Sheffield Wednesday team that is probably going to go down as one of the worst in history. In the circumstances that was going on at Sheffield Wednesday, I think Cadamarteri showed some really good signs, and the Jamaican international, like I said, put pen to paper. He signed a 3.5-year deal for a fee of around £1 million, which again, it's a good fee for a player that Parky was a big admirer of and was on his radar for the past 12 months or so. I've seen a lot of people go into social media and complaining about the statistics of Bailey Cadamarteri, but you've got to remember, he's 20 years old. He's still relatively young. I think this is his 3rd or 2nd full season playing football. You've got to remember as well that he's playing in a side that have only picked up 11 points in the Championship this season. Barry Bannon left the club. He was getting next to no service in that Sheffield Wednesday team, up front on his own, pulling the strings up top and, putting the hard yards in. And I think, that's something that Phil Parkinson will have noted. It's not all about the goals. If he can get a player like Cadamarteri, who has shown he'll give 110% in for a struggling Sheffield Wednesday side, play for the badge and just give it his all when he's on that pitch, I'm sure Phil Parkinson will really want that type of player into the squad, because we need that going into the final stretch of the Championship this season. Like I said, he puts in the hard yards. His goal tally doesn't necessarily complement his performances that he does put in, so let's hope at Wrexham, better service. Like I said, he's playing with good attacking players. Let's hope he can get more goals to his name in a Wrexham shirt. Yeah, we've seen him on 2 different occasions: in the home game where he scored against us earlier on in the season, and just a couple of days ago in the Championship against Sheffield Wednesday. He seems like the striker that's going to be the profile of what we do already have. The likes of Kiefer, the likes of Sam Smith, a powerful, strong centre forward who has an eye for goal, but his play is mostly built on holding the ball up, using his strength, putting his body in, and laying it off to Josh Windass, Nathan Broadhead. So he's going to be a player, like I said, that you're going to see in a Wrexham shirt. Will run his socks off, will put in the hard yards. He might not score all the goals in the world, but you can guarantee Bailey Cadamarteri will give his all for Wrexham. Yeah, and like I said, it's only going to enhance the quality of this Wrexham squad going into, the last 15 games of the Championship season. He's going to push Kiefer Moore, he's going to push Sam Smith, and I'm really excited to see what Cadamarteri can bring to this Wrexham team, because like I said on Zak Vyner, it does almost seem like a free hit. Of course, he's not been registered into the squad because he's under the age of 22. He's a homegrown player, so it is a free hit in that sense, but I do think you have to look on different scenarios, which we'll get talking on in the loan watch next. You're looking at Ryan Hardie, who was a proven Championship striker, had scored double digits for Plymouth Argyle in the Championship on a couple of occasions, and he's been replaced by a player that scored 2 goals in 29 games in the Championship this season in Bailey Cadamarteri. So you don't know on that sense. There's obviously something that Phil Parkinson sees in Cadamarteri that he doesn't see in Ryan Hardie, so we'll have to wait and see on that front. All our trust goes into Phil Parkinson on these signings, because a lot of them have come off that I'm sure a lot of people have doubted before. So moving away from signings and looking at departures, Paul Mullin has left Wrexham for Bradford City. Now, I think this is a really good move for Paul Mullin. I think him and his agent have done a really good job in securing that move to a top-end League One side in Bradford City. Now, it comes after Mullin had a really unsuccessful spell on loan at Wigan Athletic at the bottom end of League One. He's returned to Wrexham, got his fitness up a bit, played a game behind closed doors, and now Bradford City, a promotion contending side, have made that approach from Mullin, and Mullin has accepted on the dotted line and has played 2 games for them. I think he made 20 odd minutes in their win against Doncaster. He started today in their 2-1 defeat away at Luton. So again, Paul Mullin joins them. It's a big occasion for him. It's a big challenge for him to get Bradford City promoted to the Championship, and his aggression, his work rate seems to have really caught the eye of Bradford City fans early on in his Bansom's career. So let's hope we can see the best version of Paul Mullin. Whether he's going to return to Wrexham or not upon the expiry of his loan deal, I don't think so at this moment in time, but again, it's about Mullin going out, enjoying his football, and hopefully adding another promotion to his CV. Connor Cody, now this is probably the one that we need to highlight the most, because Coady was a big money signing in the summer. Signed for £2.5 million, was on £30,000 a week at Wrexham, and it's not gone well at all. He played 5 games for us, and it's a much needed loan move for Conor Coady to fellow Championship side Charlton Athletic. Now, we look at Coady, he fell down the pecking order so much upon the arrival of Dom Hyam, the improved performances over time of Dan Scarr, of Callum Doyle, so the pecking order was something that he did massively fall down. But he's already made his mark at Charlton Athletic under Nathan Jones, where in 2 games he's played, he's obviously started both in a defensive midfield role, which something I didn't expect to see happen at all. I didn't think Conor Coady had the legs to play in central midfield, to pull the strings in the middle of the park for Charlton Athletic, but they've picked up 4 points since Coady's arrival, 3 away at Leicester City in the 2-0 win, and most recently at home to QPR 0-0. So they've kept 2 clean sheets on the bounce, and considering they lost 4-0 to Millwall the week before and won a really bad run of form, has Coady been the player that's come into the midfield, added that experience? So he's made an impact though in the first 2 games that he's played, and I think if he does make a strong impact in that Charlton Athletic side between now until the end of the season, I think a really interesting conversation needs to be had between him, his agent and Phil Parkinson regarding his future at the club. Elliot Lee has joined Doncaster Rovers of League One. Now, I was slightly surprised when I did see Elliot Lee had left the club to a team that are battling relegation at the bottom end of the League One table, but there's evidently a reason for his choice to move to the Yorkshire club. We've seen his interview spoken very highly on manager Grant McCann. He was obviously willing to give him a really good chance in that starting 11, and Lee himself stated that he had offers from top-end League One sides, but he'd already made that decision to join Doncaster Rovers and has already made an impact on the Doncaster Rovers side on debut away at Burton Albion. He had a couple of choice words towards Phil Parkinson, I think indirectly in his interview, saying, you know, what we can gather from it is he was basically saying it wasn't fair that he didn't have a shot in the Wrexham squad, or at least in the starting lineup this season, sort of taking a dig at Phil Parkinson for that. But again, I don't think that's the way to go. He will be going down as a club legend. He won't have to buy a drink in Wrexham again, but you don't want to tarnish your career if, you know, you're going on about not getting a chance, etc. Elliot Lee, yes, he was our top scorer last season in League One. Was he cut out for the Championship this year? I don't think so. Does he have a right to be annoyed that he didn't get at least a chance in the starting 11 to prove himself? Quite possibly, but when you're spending millions on, you know, good attacking players, you're going to fall down the pecking order at some stage. But again, let me know your thoughts on the whole situation. Ryan Hardie has left Wrexham for Huddersfield Town. Now, again, like Lee, there was plenty of interest surrounding the striker Ryan Hardie, and he's opted for promotion chasers Huddersfield Town in a move which will hopefully see Hardie get regular game time, because since signing for Wrexham, it's not gone to plan for him at all. I think he's made 2 starts in the Wrexham side, scored 1 goal away at Preston in the Carabao Cup, and it just isn't the career that he was hoping. New to life at Wrexham, obviously coming all that way from Plymouth Argyle up to North Wales to Wrexham. It's not gone the way he wanted to, but of course Huddersfield Town, they've just brought in Liam Manning, a good manager, so we're expecting him to get regular game time and hopefully get firing and return to Wrexham in the summer. And finishing off the video with Harry Ashfield and Mo Farr, they've both joined Cheltenham Town in League 2. A good move for both of them. They're looking to seek regular game time in the 4th tier of English football. Mo Farr had that disappointing spell at Port Vale. He's currently injured, so when he's fully fit, he'll return and link up with that Cheltenham Town squad. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they do there. And that caps off the video with Wrexham's busy last week or so in the January transfer window. So yeah, that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like, make sure to subscribe, do all that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts on the signings, the departures. I love reading your comments in the comment box down below. So yeah, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you in another video. Take care, guys. Up the town.